This is the Detroit Sports Podcast Network.
CBD is a game changer sweeping the nation. This hemp extract is the natural way to elevate your mood, eliminate aches and pains, reduce anxiety, and keep you sleeping all night long. It can even cut your workout recovery time in half. Get in the game today with 20% off all orders of CBD and lavender products from Lavender Lane, a lavender farm located right here in Milan, Michigan. Just go to lavenderlanemi.com today and enter coupon code Detroit for 20% off your entire order. Guys, look, these amazing products are infused with calming lavender to maximize their effectiveness, meaning your CBD items only take minutes to take effect, which is way quicker than those pills you were about to swallow. On top of it, they are perfect for men and women. Lavender Lane has lab-tested CBD creams, tinctures, and roll-ons that are perfect for any situation, even if you're on the go. Put your health back in your hands by heading over to lavenderlanemi.com and entering coupon code Detroit for 20% off your entire order of CBD and lavender products. What do you have to lose? Your satisfaction is guaranteed or your money back. So if you need lavender gifts for your loved ones or just looking for the natural way to ease your discomfort with CBD, go to lavenderlanemi.com and use coupon code Detroit to unlock these miraculous benefits of CBD and lavender. That's lavenderlanemi.com. And remember, use coupon code DETROIT for 20% off your CBD and lavender products from Michigan's own Lavender Lane.
Here we are, time for another Wrestling Perspective podcast.
Time for another one.
Another one. Eli Drake keeps coming back, so I keep hitting record.
It's unbelievable. I just have nothing better to do, but here I am. Here we are. It's a beautiful, I'm not going to tell you what night it is because I don't know what night this is going to be out, but here it is. Thursday night, Friday night, Saturday night. Nobody knows what night it is, but I'm in L.A. Where are you tonight, Dennis?
Hey. So anyways.
Where are you tonight, Dennis?
Michigan.
Detroit, yeah?
Yep. See, sunny L.A., cold and snowy.
You know, it's funny. I saw them doing the, and I mean, obviously this is a daily thing, but I saw them doing the weather report earlier on TV, and I just thought how ridiculous it is because every day here in L.A., pretty much you know what it's going to be. It's going to be sun and more sun.
Oh, boy. It must be such a hard life.
It's the hardest.
Well, I mean, you did some time in Ohio.
That was awful. Holy God, that was awful. I would never, ever want to live there again. I've barely visited, only when friends have gotten married and things like that. Or like, you know, we did a HWA anniversary show because that's where I started. And I did that back in 2017. That was cool, but, man, you don't want to hang around for those winters.
No, some of us are forced to. Feel like I'm doing time.
Are you really forced, though? I mean, at some point, you're an adult with a car and the ability to move anywhere you want.
Yes, but I am I'm being suffocated by this thing called making a living, comfortably making a living.
That's true.
But,
I mean, you can make a living anywhere.
I could move to California and be a Fortune 500 CEO and still be homeless. That's how much it costs to live there.
Well, you're talking probably San Francisco. L.A., you can do okay. I'm no Fortune 500 CEO. I'm doing okay. I'm living comfortably, but I've got a pretty nice pad, a pretty nice car, and I can't complain. And I mean, I ain't making crazy money. I ain't making CEO money, but I'm doing all right.
Okay.
But San Francisco's ridiculous, and I don't even know why. Speaking of weather, their weather's awful. It's just always cold and cloudy.
When you made the choice to move to California, was it just Hollywood or bust, or was there other parts of California you were thinking about?
No, definitely L.A. Okay, so a lot of people don't know this, but I did WWE Tough Enough, the $1 million one in 2004, and I was chosen as one of the alternates. They chose the main cast of 8 people and 2 alternates, me and another guy. They didn't end up using either one of us, which I found surprising because one of the guys ended up dropping out like either the first episode or before they even started shooting. But regardless, we did that tryout out here in Venice in LA, and it was my first time ever coming to LA. And I remember before that, I was like, man, I'd really like to move to Miami. I feel like it'd be really cool to go to Miami because I'd spent a couple spring breaks down there and really liked it. But when I came out here, I was like, oh, man, this is like a mix of like Miami and New York like together, but a little bit different. And so in 2006, I moved out here, and holy God, everything went awful. Everything went so bad so quickly. I got out here. I left on my birthday. It was my 24th birthday, November 1st, 2006. And it was a 3-day drive from Cincinnati, Ohio. And by the time I got out here, I had a hole about the size of a quarter in my engine. I was driving a blue Jeep Wrangler soft top. And by the time I got out here, I had this big ass hole, and it would just spill oil, like completely empty my engine of oil. So anytime that I wanted to go somewhere, I had to get a quart of oil just to go anywhere. And I had no money. I was broke as shit. I literally think I brought maybe $1,000 with me. I think that's all I had to my name. So I was literally stealing. I was stealing quarts of oil. Like I'd walk into a store and just like tuck one under my armpit in my jacket, walking out to fill my Jeep just so I could go somewhere, because I didn't have the money to even buy the damn quarts of oil. It was crazy. And I spent about 6 months out here. It was probably a little less than that, 5 months. Crazy roommate situation. I ended up leaving there. Went and spent like a month on a friend's couch until my welcome was worn out there. Another friend's couch for a couple of weeks until finally I was just threw my hands up and I was like, I got to go back and regroup. So I went back to Ohio because it didn't really make sense to go back to Maryland. All my friends had moved about the country at that point in time, my closest friends. So it was like, well, I at least have a wrestling base where I started in Cincinnati. So I'll go back there, I'll get stuff back together, and then we'll move on from there. And so I spent another 2 years there, and I was like, I'm going back to California as soon as I can. And it was July of 2009. And man, what a rough time leading up to that. July 2009, I got in my car and I drove out here from Maryland. Check engine light came on as soon as I got to the Indiana border. It was now I'm driving. Okay, so in that time, 2007, that Jeep that I had, it just completely died. Went to hell, and I ended up getting a 1997 Oldsmobile Cutlass Supreme.
Had one.
Actually a damn great car. It was a 2-door coupe. It was like one of the strongest cars. I'd only ever had 4-cylinder cars at that point. This was a 6-cylinder, badass little, what was it, an Oldsmobile? It was actually really great. What I spent, it was probably like $6,000-$7,000 or something like that, and I was paying payments on it. Awful credit, so I was paying like ridiculous payments on such a small loan. And anyway, I drove cross country. My check engine light comes on when I get to Indiana, and I was like, well, just keep on rolling, because I had just fixed my transmission like days before I left and thought everything was cool and good and great. And I think I got out to I got to Denver, and I was like, just keep going. I got to Vegas, and all of a sudden my car just, I was hitting the gas, but I wasn't going anywhere. It was like I was in neutral. And I was on the 15 in Las Vegas. There was Friday night traffic. So I pulled over to the side and I turned the car off, and I'm like, oh shit. I turned the car back on, put it in a drive, and I'm going again. I'm like, okay, forget stopping anywhere. I'm going all the way to LA. It's another 4 hours. It was 11 p.m. at night at that point, but I was like, I'm not stopping. I got to go. And so I drove, and I got to Baker, California. And if anybody knows where that is, it's the middle of nowhere. It's famous for their alien jerky. You see the signs everywhere. And I get to Baker, California. I'm on cruise control, doing about 70, 80-ish. And all of a sudden, I notice that my RPMs are going through the roof, and I'm slowing down. And I'm like, oh, shit. And so I take it out of cruise control. I'm hitting the gas, and again, it's like I'm in neutral again. So I kind of coast down, pull over to the side, shut the car off, turn it back on, and you know when you shift into drive on an automatic transmission, and you can feel it shift. You feel it go into gear. Mm-hmm. There was nothing. And so I got it in a drive, didn't feel much, hit the gas, didn't move. Now I'm stranded in Baker, California, the middle of nowhere. I'm 108. Last sign I saw was 181 miles away from LA. So I ended up sleeping there for a couple hours until finally I got a tow truck to come and get me. Went back to Vegas. Now I'm thinking like, because Vegas was only 90 miles away, and I had towing up to 100 miles or something. I think my mom had some plan. And I was like, well, I guess I'm going to have to live in Vegas for a couple months because I don't have any money. I literally had maybe $400 or $500 left at this point. So I went back to Vegas. It was a whole thing. Eventually, I ended up borrowing money from a friend. My mom gave me a couple $100, and the guy kind of gave me a break at the garage. And eventually, I ended up getting on my way to L.A., literally after paying for the car, getting a double cheeseburger at McDonald's, and already having my tank full of gas. I had $10 to my name driving to L.A. It was the scariest shit of all time. Thankfully, I had a friend who lived out here in Reseda, and I spent the next 4 months on his floor until I had enough money to move into an apartment. We actually moved into one together. And if there wasn't money at the end of my drive, I didn't go anywhere. It was wild. I got crazy little like Craigslist side jobs where I was pretending I could speak Spanish, and it went horribly wrong. I was doing like audience where you can get paid to go sit in audiences for like talk shows and game shows and stuff out here. So I was doing stuff like that. It was a crazy time.
That's funny because a lot of times, at least on the podcast, when P and I did it, he'd tell stories about some of the old TNA guys telling stories about how they used to do the Jerry Springer show. Have you?
Oh yeah. When I lived in Ohio, somebody had asked me if I wanted to do that. I don't remember why I didn't. But yeah, there were a bunch of guys who I'd wrestled with both in Ohio and Indiana who had like shown me clips of them being on that show. And that was when, I mean, that show was always a little bit outlandish, but that was when the wool was really kind of pulled away from my eyes. I was like, oh, that is all bullshit. It's just like wrestling.
Do you regret not doing it?
No.
Really? Because that seems like that might be one of those things where you can always say, I was on the Jerry Springer show once.
I guess. I don't know. It's Jerry Springer seems like such a trashy look, I guess. And then I know now that like the cat's out of the bag and it's all like, it's not real or whatever. But at the same time, it's kind of the same reason why I wouldn't want to do a lot of reality TV, because let's say that someday I do want to parlay this crazy wrestling career into some sort of an acting career. And I actually have done some acting that's been around, some people seen, whatever. I don't feel like maybe that credit wouldn't hurt me, but I don't know that it would do me any favors.
It would do you absolutely zero favors. But on the flip side, that's kind of a cool thing to say, hey, I was on the Jerry Springer show. And I wish, and he never told me who some of the other guys were, because I think that would be awesome to hear, like, Christopher Daniels or whatever. I'm just throwing a name out. Talk about how he once was on the Jerry Springer show playing, a gay Nazi leftist poker player.
Well, hey, I'm huge in Latin America because I was on Doce Corazones.
Really?
It's a dating show, but that also complete work.
What?
Complete work. I won the show. It was like it was a special body paint edition. So like all the girls were in like this really elaborate body paint. All the guys who came out shirtless and like jeans. It was like 3 girls and probably like 10 guys or whatever. And it ended up coming down to me and 2 other guys. And then ultimately one of the girls picked one of the guys. And then in some weird twist, they had her change and pick me. And so like I won the show, but they came up to me beforehand and they were like, hey, are you comfortable kissing on camera? And I'm like, yeah, sure. Why? And they're like, well, we're going to have you win. Her boyfriend's on set. Like, it's cool. It's all good. I just wanted to, like, just no tongue or anything. I'm like, yeah, okay, fine. So like now I win the show and we're standing there like kissing awkwardly for what has to be 3+ minutes while there's just like confetti falling and people are cheering and it's this whole, and it's just going on and on and on because they got to get the shot and they've got cameras revolving around us and getting these different angles and everything. It was a wild time, but that paid probably like $80 or something. Like it was something so awful, but a lot of fun.
Hang on, it was a Spanish dating show.
Yes,
and you didn't.
It was on like Univision or one of those shows. Telemundo or something, yeah.
And you didn't speak Spanish?
No, I did.
Oh.
So like my Spanish is I'm not fluent, but I can, if I need to say something, I pretty much know how to say it for the most part. I'm sure I'm stumped in certain areas, but like everything I needed to say, whatever they asked, whatever the questions were, whatever, I always knew how to respond. Some of the guys didn't speak a lick of Spanish, and they were like feeding them lines and telling them how to say it. But I knew enough to get through it. And I was probably like kind of the biggest, most jacked guy there. So it was kind of, I guess, played to my advantage every time I get up and say something, like all the girls in the audience, all that kind of stuff. Somewhere, I'm sure this exists somewhere on the internet, but I've only seen like little tiny clips of it.
Hang on. So many questions. How much of the show?
So what'd you want to talk about today?
Apparently it's Eli Drake, the dating show king.
Yeah.
How much of the show did they have you do shirtless? Because if you were the most jacked
the whole
guy,
thing.
What was everybody else wearing a shirt or?
No, everybody was shirtless. All the guys. I mean, most of the guys were in good shape. It's LA after all. But like I was like the biggest, most carved out.
Wow. Well, wow.
It's been a life.
Trust me, I think that's absolutely not even hilarious. It's funny to think that there's a video of you shirtless on a Spanish dating show.
Oh, it's phenomenal. I need to come up with it. I'm sure somebody will probably tweet it at me at some point. But it's out there. All I know is the show is called 12 Corazones, and I believe it was some special body painting episode, and that's all I know.
You didn't even really get to date the girl. It was all
no. I got to stand there and just like kiss her. Like I mean, we were like making out, like
while her boyfriend's watching.
Yeah. So yeah, I was totally cucking her boyfriend. But it was, it was weird only for the fact that there's this studio filled with probably 100 people just cheering nonstop, and there's music playing, and it was just like they had to keep getting the shots. So it's like we had to just keep kissing and kissing and kissing and kissing and kissing until finally they called cut.
Ugh, that's almost like a wrestling TV taping where if you miss a shot, you have to go back out to do it again. Yeah. That for some random, and people don't understand what's going on. Which,
by the way, I'm not complaining about because this girl was hot as a pistol. But at the same time, it was definitely awkward.
Oh, let's talk some wrestling.
All right.
We've talked dating show stuff enough.
Yeah, how the hell did we even get there? Something about LA. Here I came. I was working weird side jobs.
I'm not sure, but the journey was well worth it.
Yeah.
So I do want to start and talk about this Saudi Arabia thing. Now, you know a few of the guys. I don't know if you've talked or gossiped anything. And it was big news where apparently, and now I'm going to mess this story up because there's been several different versions of it. But apparently, from what I've gathered, for whatever the reason, apparently there was a little tiff and Saudi Arabia was trying to stonewall or get the WWE back. They grounded the, I hate to say the word like this, but apparently the average wrestler's jet. Vince McMahon, like the top 20 wrestlers, and even Brock Lesnar had his own personal jet. They all got out of tow and left a group of these wrestlers stranded in Saudi Arabia. Now, without naming names, because I know you won't, did you talk to any of these guys after this ordeal?
I actually haven't. The only guy I've talked to was actually just asking me if I wanted to come hang out in Florida next week because he's got the week off. Other than that, I haven't even bothered to ask or talk about it or anything. But it's funny, though. I remember last week I think I'd said something about this whole deal being kind of a shady. I don't know. It just doesn't seem like a good deal. It's a great deal financially. It's amazing. But I don't know that it's good for PR standpoint.
Not at all.
And I don't know that it's obviously good from a humanitarian standpoint or whatever. It sounds okay. So depending on who you ask, because some people were saying that essentially Saudi Arabia was attempting to kidnap WWE wrestlers and crew. And if you talk to, like, I think I heard Corey Graves and what's his name? Soccer mom. AJ Styles.
Okay.
Sorry, that was my word association there. AJ Styles and Corey Graves, if you hear them talk about it, then they say, no, it was definitely the mechanical malfunction. It was, they put us in nice suites, this, that, whatever. So I don't really know what to think about it.
Yeah, of course, and I hate to say anything bad, but of course they're going to toe the company line. And I would too. Let's be honest. If something like this happened and the company's like, look, I need you to come out there and rah and say this, I'm going to do it because I'm cashing their checks and I'm a team player.
Man, you're better than me.
Well,
like if I felt my life was actually on the line, man, I would be screaming at the world about it.
But did anybody really scream at the world about it outside of dirt sheets? I mean, some of the wrestlers were aggravated and kind of ticked off. I think,
but that almost sounded like they were just aggravated and ticked off from like a travel standpoint.
Absolutely.
Like, it's the fucking worst day of travel.
Absolutely, and that's fine, and that's expected, especially if the rumor's true that they took as many of the top guys as they could fit on the plane and left everybody else behind. I would be upset.
But okay, so see, I've heard it that way, and I've also heard that those other guys had their own planes.
Well, I only heard Brock had his, and once again, the story is so crazy right now. There's 5 different stories.
So, like, who all got out?
I don't know. I just heard
I heard Vince got out on his with whoever. I heard Hogan and Flair got out on one together. Brock got out on one together, I guess, with Paul, and I don't know who else, but I can't remember who else. But my understanding from because the first time somebody told me, they had told me that it was Vince and all of like his favorite or top guys or whatever, and then everybody else defended themselves. But then when I heard other reports, numerous other reports have said that these guys had gone out on their own jets. So it was like Vince went on his, Hogan and Flair went on theirs, Brock went on his, somebody else went on theirs.
Should you, at that point, as a company owner, or maybe even as one of the top guys, should you kind of have that leave no man behind thing? Because it just sounded like it was like, screw everybody else, I'm out of here, you guys will be all right, see you later.
Yeah, but I guess that also depends on the timing of everything, because then you wonder, so what Corey Graves was saying anyway was like, usually what Vince does as soon as the show is over and he gets out, whatever, and he's off on his plane and he's on to the next place, on to the next town or whatever, home or whatever it is. And so he was explaining it that's exactly what Vince was doing, is what he always does, and he just gets on his plane and he goes. So if that was the case for these other guys and they didn't have any idea what was going on, then I guess you can't fault them. But if they got their own private jets as a response to being held up, then yeah, there's a big problem with not bringing along the other guys and leaving the other guys behind, because that's part of the camaraderie of the locker room and the brotherhood and all that stuff with wrestling. You're trusting each other with your bodies and your lives in the ring. And it's almost kind of the same thing, even out of it in a sense, but especially when you're still in that group team dynamic.
Now, do you think this fractures the locker room going forward? Because as a fan, I don't know. The only locker room I've really seen is independent shows and Impact. And those are kind of 2 out of the norm locker rooms at least I would think so to begin with. But in a corporate locker room like WWE going forward, do you think an incident like this maybe splits the locker room, or you would see going forward guys that maybe had been open to re-signing with the E change their mind and decide, screw this?
Well, I haven't been in a WWE locker room in probably about 5 years. But from my knowledge, memory of that. Wait, what?
I said, yeah, that's what I'm going for. You've been around enough locker rooms. You've been around enough of the boys that I think you could give an educated guess on different locker rooms and different companies, even though you haven't been there in a while.
Well, that locker room is very different from any other locker room, and I feel like, and I think somebody just touched on this recently. I don't remember who, but they kind of cultivate this culture of kind of always looking over your shoulder and perceived backstabbings and things like that, and very cutthroat. Where the one thing that, and I remember Bill Benoit would always say this, and I'm sure that other coaches, and I think maybe even Triple H might have said this, but I definitely remember Bill Benoit always saying, there aren't a bunch of open spots for people. So whose spot are you going to take? Mm-hmm. And it was always that, whose spot are you going to take? Not where are you going to fit in, where are you going to make yourself work in the scheme of things. Whose spot are you going to take? And so you're really creating that environment where it's everybody, kind of every man for themselves. At the same time, you got a lot of guys and girls who've been walking on eggshells for a long time. I would say that's probably eased up a little bit now with the advent of AEW and other viable options to go make income and whatnot. But so many people were worried about getting fired or getting heat or this, that, but at the same time still, playing politics, backstabbing, this, that. I could see it being kind of an us versus them thing, as far as like, it's almost like the wealth gap in the United States in a sense. You're almost looking at the top 1% or whatever of the WWE versus, the bottom 99. Or this could be a prime time, as people brought up, for that 99% to unionize, or at least make that effort.
That can never happen in the wrestling industry, right? Unionizing?
I don't know, because I feel like I feel like the wrestlers especially are getting a lot better at being able to work with each other in a sense. Like, I mean, if you think about the personalities that existed back in like the 80s, for instance, where like Roddy Piper would just not lose to Hulk Hogan, and Hulk Hogan wouldn't lose to this guy, or, that kind of stuff. I don't think that stuff exists as much anymore. I don't think the guys are as protective anymore, to the point where I think that guys and girls would be more willing to work together if they felt like it could better them. The only problem is you kind of lose a lot of power if you don't have some of the top guys coming along with you for the ride. And the problem is, if they're already making a boatload of money, they have nothing to complain about. So unless they really give a shit, it's a tough sell. It's tough to do, because as far as Vince or anybody else is concerned, you are replaceable. So even if the whole roster decides, hey, we want a union, we want to unionize, whatever, he'll be like, okay, well, there's 80 people down at the Performance Center that I can dress up tonight and put in your spot.
Do you think that some of the issues with unionizing is the economy of different wrestling organizations? Because I don't think you can organize the WWE but not NWA, AEW or any Impact. I think if you're going to do the whole industry, you have to do it as a whole, right?
I had also wondered how that would work, because like, what would happen with the indies? Would it be kind of like television, where there's union and non-union work, and what would determine that? That would kind of be the troublesome part. But then also you got to consider, okay, so let's say for acting, for instance, if you're part of SAG, I don't believe that you can take non-union work, and if you're not part of the union, you can't take union work. So I don't know. There's a lot of benefits if you're in certain positions, but I guess it would have to be, obviously, the details would have to be worked out. But yeah, I mean, a lot of places I don't think would be able to afford that. WWE is the only place, I think right now, maybe AEW, billionaire backed, that would be able to actually support that.
Yeah, there would have to be a way, because I think the two would be the backbone of unionizing, that they would almost have to shoulder the responsibility for some sort of medical reimbursement. Not reimbursement, yeah. But it wouldn't be fair to the smaller companies, but they would have to do something within themselves to honor the union work.
But I'm feeling like it would be a very small union, because, again, it's not like none of the indies, I don't think, are going to be able to be a part of the union. I mean, I guess that the stars could pay union dues and stuff like that, but then that means that there's got to be certain needs met from the promoters. There's got to be certain pay met from the promoters to use his talent, and there's no way that they're going to be able to do that.
Would unionizing the major television companies cripple the independent scene then?
I mean, if they were forced to also use union talent, then yeah, I mean, they'd be screwed.
Boy, that's a tough one because I'd love to see some sort of revisiting to this contractor clause in WWE contracts.
That's the real thing. That's really what needs to happen is, especially, okay, I will at least say, in fairness with Impact and with NWA, but even especially with Impact, like, I felt like an independent contractor there. Like, of course, there were dates where it was like, okay, these are the dates we need you to show up, this, that, whatever. But at the same time, it was like I was still free to do whatever else I needed to do as long as, you know, some of it I had to get cleared, stuff like that, whatever. But it was still like I could go do whatever else I wanted. And it wasn't like I didn't have to show up to the same place, the same time every day, where it's kind of like that way in WWE, even though, you know, you're in a different town or whatever. But if you don't show up, you're out of a job, or if you decide you don't want to work or whatever, for whatever reason, you are 100% an employee at WWE. 100%.
There's no doubt about it.
So I don't know how they've gotten away this long. I mean, I've got to imagine there's some big money being lobbied about or whatnot through Senate or whatever, or maybe just it's that far off the radar, but I don't know. It's such a big company that I can't imagine that it's that far off the radar.
Now, you know, it's money, and that's why they've been able to get around this. It's weird how we went from one conversation into the unionization of the wrestling industry, and if it could work and if it couldn't. Maybe you just have to try to do one in WWE. And at that point, the major changes would happen, right? I mean, the company that we know as a WWE would maybe cease to operate the way it has.
Well, I'm actually surprised that somehow WWE doesn't fall under the jurisdiction of like SAG, because it's a television show. Essentially, it's actors. I mean, we're doing very athletic stunts and whatnot, but at the end of the day, it's still an acting performance in a sense. So it almost seems like somehow it would have to fall under that umbrella.
Yeah.
But then you also got to wonder. Then there's like athletic commission, that kind of stuff. So it's like, what the heck? We would have to be our own sports entertainment professional wrestling union, I guess. That would only apply to us because it wouldn't really fit in line with it, because it's not really necessarily sport. It's not really necessarily just acting. It truly is, and I know this term rubs people. You know what I hate about sports entertainment? Sports entertainment is accurate. That's what it is, but you can't use that within the confines of the show. Like when the announcers are like, "Oh, the greatest show in sports entertainment." In the show, it's professional wrestling. Outside of the show, you say this is sports entertainment. Like that would be like if who played Batman? What's his name?
Val Kilmer.
No, come on.
See what I did there? The worst one.
Come on. All right. Well, you know what? Let's screw it. We'll go with Val Kilmer. Let's say Val Kilmer is saying to who was it? Mr. Freeze? Was that movie?
Sure. That was
one
of the worst.
So we'll say Mr. Freeze. Let's say he's talking to Mr. Freeze and he says, you know, in this acting piece, blah, 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 in this movie that we're in right now, you can't, you're breaking down the fourth wall by calling it sports entertainment within the commentary or within the story. Like that's the genre of what it is, but like the people shouldn't be aware of it. Like the people within the story, you know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
Am I making sense? I feel like I'm having a tough time getting this across.
Nope, you're not. Because when I watch wrestling, I want it to be an escape. We all know what it is at this point in time. And when I watch wrestling and I have the commentators flat out tell me it's entertainment and it's fake, it takes me right out. Even if you were watching a horror movie and the guy gets his head chopped off, but as the head rolls, he goes, "Don't worry, guys, it's fake."
Right.
It's not the same.
But that's what drives me nuts about a lot of wrestlers, though, too, because a lot of times I'll be trying to call a match with a guy, and I'll be like, "Wait a minute, dude, this doesn't make any sense." And he's like, "It doesn't have to make sense. It's wrestling." And I'm like, "That's fucking lazy." Sorry, I said F. I said it, but that's lazy. You're rubbing the audience's nose in what we're doing and telling them, "You're wasting your time here. This is all BS, and you're stupid for paying attention to it." Like, for me, it's like you got to have some integrity in what you're doing. If the people aren't suspending their disbelief, then what's the point of what you're doing? Unless you're doing a complete parody show. If you're doing a parody wrestling show, have at it. There's a lot of popularity with that, especially people who aren't traditionally wrestling fans, because they're like, "Oh, this is kind of funny. It's making fun of wrestling. This is cool." But like, if you actually want to see good wrestling, you don't rub the people's face in it.
How does that affect you calling a match then when you go in there? Because you listen, you said a second ago calling matches, and we're talking about how weird the wrestling industry is with how they call it entertainment and wrestling. There's got to be independent shows, or maybe even between Impact and NWA, the way matches are called or even structured.
What the hell are you asking me?
I guess in a short term, not short term, but in a nutshell, you have the independent circuit, which each show is a different show. You have Impact, which is a different kind of show, and you have NWA, which is a different kind of show. When you go in and you work with a wrestler, how does Impact, NWA, and maybe an indie show impact how you structure and call your matches?
It doesn't so much as the audience or where I'm at on the show. And I think that's what's lost on a lot of the guys. And this goes to, and I know we were going to touch on this, but what Edge said in his tweet about the NWA. And the one thing, and I posted this on my story because I posted the screenshot of his tweet today, and the one thing that he said was lack of dives. Dives have become completely meaningless. Everybody does a dive. You can watch any show on any indie show, any show on TV, and like the first damn near every match, if not 50% of them, have a dive. What's it mean? Has anybody ever won with a dive? I don't get it. So it's that kind of thing where it's like you got to pay attention to where you are on the show. And I remember telling this to, I think it was like Scarlett Bordeaux last year. We were doing a show in Detroit, and she was wrestling a girl who nobody's ever heard of. And we were doing a taping for Impact, or it was like a one night only or something like that. But the girl she's wrestling, nobody knows, nobody's seen. It's her first time going to be on Impact TV, and she's doing like a moonsault off the apron to the floor on this girl. And I'm like, why are you doing that for somebody that nobody knows? You're the star. She should have to do that for you. You should have to do almost nothing to beat this girl because she's nobody. Nobody knows who she is. Or at least if you want to build her up and make her look strong, you can do that without having to pull out. You can do that while still making yourself look strong without having to pull out all the stops. If you're to pull out all the stops against her, how are you ever going to beat the women's champion or, some other tougher opponent who's been around people know? And a lot of these guys will go out match one and they're doing false finishes and stuff like that. And it's like, what the hell are you doing? You're leaving nothing for yourself to build to, first of all. You're leaving nothing for the main event. You're leaving nothing to build to in the show. The problem is you're going to fatigue the audience. And a lot of people will be like, oh, well, then you just got to get more creative. But no, you can't get – once they see 5 false finishes in the first match, 6 false finishes in the second match, 7 false finishes in the third match, by the time they get to match 8, they've already seen 100 false finishes. At that point, when you get 1, 2, it's like, okay, we've seen this a million times. It's not as exciting. Like, these guys just, they're not using psychology. They're thinking, well, I want to steal the show. I want to have the best match on the show. That's cool and great and good. But there's a way to do that without having a main event match, quote unquote. So whether it's NWA, Impact, whatever, the arena or the venue doesn't matter so much as what's the audience reacting to, what kind of an audience is it, and where am I at on the show? If I'm the last match on the show, okay, I've got leeway to do a lot more. If I'm the first match on the show, for the most part, unless it's like some weirdly ordered thing where like it's a hot feud and for some reason they're doing it kind of out of order just to get the show hot. For the most part, 99% of the time, it's going to stay in the ring. It's going to be short and sweet. I'm going to get over a lot of personality, and I'm going to get over a couple good, crisp moves while telling a solid story in whatever limited amount of time that we have.
I like that. That's interesting. And speaking of that, we have the NWA pay-per-views coming up here soon. The first one in, I guess, the new company's history. And as we talked a few shows ago about pay-per-views and having a different feel, and I know that you're not in on the talks, but have you heard rumors if it's going to be the same set as it is from television, if they're going to do something a little bit different for a pay-per-view to give it a special feel?
Well, I know we're going to be in the same place, but I have heard that there are going to be little tweaks and little bits of differences. I'm not going to spoil those things, but I went and actually saw Billy. He's doing his live tour, and he did 3 dates in LA at the beginning of this week. Awesome show, by the way. And in the place we were at, it looked like he almost decorated the place. Obviously, he didn't, but I guess it was like an old Masonic temple or something. And just some of the imagery and stuff that was on the walls and the ceilings and whatnot, it was so fitting. It reminded me of the album cover from what was it called? Melancholy and the Infinite Sadness. But yeah, he was telling me that night actually some of the differences that there will be at the pay-per-view. But like I said, I will not spoil those.
Let me see here. Hey, I'm looking through my Eli Drake tweets here. Hey, Dennis, do you want to go to a concert with me? No, that's not it. Almost home. Good to record at 30.
We see what happened.
Well, hang on. I just thought there might be a tweet here for me, or a text. Do you want to go see Billy in a concert? No, but I don't get that one. No, I get. Never mind. Sorry, I was just looking through something else.
Oh wait, I found it. But it's to Michelle. So.
Oh, okay.
Somebody reported that we were over by the bar making out the whole time. I don't know who's had eyes on us, but I got up to Billy's green room up when he was done, and he was like, "Oh, we heard that you were making out by the bar." I'm like, "What? Who's watching us?"
That's weird. That someone would report back to Billy like, "Hey, did you see one of your staff members? Was it one of the roadies?" No, it was one of your guys from NWA.
Yeah,
that's how that had to have gone down, right?
I don't know. I think it might have been one of the girls who came to the bar to get a water or something. I'm not sure.
I don't know. Look, there's got to be a kiss on the cheek or something like, "I'm enjoying the night. Thank you, Eli, for taking me." Mwah. And then, right, that's probably how that went down.
Yeah, something like that.
Either way, how awesome was that you did you get to hang out backstage with Billy?
Yeah. That was like the green room I was talking about. Actually, Michael Bisping was up there too, so got to meet him. He was hanging out. There was a bunch of girls there who, like, I don't know who they were, but they all had very impressive resumes. One was like a sex therapist, another one was like a geologist, and a couple other ones. I'm not sure.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, geez, he has a pretty interesting entourage.
Indeed, he does.
Now, is he going to be at the pay-per-view?
Of course. Right, he's the boss man. He's got to be there.
Well, yes, but he's also a rock and roll musician and one of the hottest bands ever. And you might think that his tour date may fall on some of the tapings or pay-per-views.
Man, you know how crazy that was. Now that you say that, like he, literally, I would say musical icon. Like that's like the Smashing Pumpkins. Such like you hear that music and it hits a note, whatever song it is for you. But particularly in 1996, I was a freshman in high school, and I remember somebody playing Tonight Tonight, or I think I saw the video or something on MTV, and all the guys who I was in the drumline with, who were like seniors, they loved it. They were playing it all the time on the bus and whatnot, going to the shows. And I was like, man, I was always a hip hop and a rap guy, and I still am. But that song made me buy that album just for that. And it was just so weird thinking about it, because I'm like, man, now I'm like here watching him play live, and I work for him, and we're friends, and I have his phone number, and it's just such a weird, it's just a very strange, charmed life that I lived. Like, I don't know. So do you ever just like stop and you're just like, what how the hell did I get here?
All the time. Listen, as weird as that sounds, I have the same thing because, once again, fantasy football is what got me my start here. And there are guys like Rob Riggle, famous comedian, actor, Ron Livingston from Swingers. If you've ever seen Veep, Matt Walsh, he was also in the first Hangover movie. The guys from Super Trooper and Bearfest. I mean, I have relationships with guys that have no business, even wrestlers. I mean, look, I can't, there are days I'm like, Eli Drake is kind of my friend. Now, I geek out over that kind of stuff. So yeah, I know exactly what you mean. I mean,
Isn't Ron Livingston from? He's the main guy in Office Space.
Yes,
yeah?
Yes.
Oh yeah, okay. All my best friends. That's like their favorite movie to quote all the time, every time I see him.
Okay, very nice guy. I love, it blows my mind, that some of these guys, talk to me. There's I'm trying to think of who else there was the other day that. George Kittle from the 49ers, tight end down there. It just former athletes. I mean, there's no way guys like Dimitri Young, you're an old Cincinnati guy, you may remember him, or, gosh, who else was there? Not Travis Hafner for the Indians. I mean, these guys all talk to me. It's like, what are you guys doing talking to me?
All right, man. You don't have to try and outdo me here. This is ridiculous.
Is it going good, or should I keep going?
My God. All right. Yeah. Tell me some more.
I'm almost done.
All right. It's enough.
Okay,
no more.
Good. Thank you for saving me.
I used to talk to The Rock. He doesn't talk to me anymore.
Oh. That sucks.
Son of a bitch.
How do we change it? Should we just get a hashtag going like Eli for The Rock?
Nah, I mean, it's fine. I mean, unless he's got a job for me or something. But I used to have after I did The Hero and when I signed with WWE and everything, I had pretty good regular contact with Danny Garcia, who's his ex-wife and his current manager. And so we would correspond. The Rock and I would maybe tweet back and forth occasionally. Actually, he probably tweeted me a year ago or something, responding to something I said. But it's just it was almost like as soon as I got released from WWE, Danny unfollowed me and hasn't responded to any of my emails since then. So I don't know if I somehow along the way pissed somebody off or what, but
it's funny.
Wouldn't be a surprise.
That's happened many times too, where the fantasy football season's over, and then you send a guy a text in the off season, and you don't hear back from him until he needs advice 4 months later. It's like, you SOB, come on.
Yeah, well, when Danny and The Rock come to me for advice, I might have to just give him the cold shoulder.
No, you wouldn't. You wouldn't, and neither would I.
I don't know. They're going to come knocking for advice at some point.
But you talked about the Edge. I mean, that was one thing I wanted to talk about, just how much accolades the NWA is getting right now. I mean, outside of Joey Ryan and his hatred of Jim Cornette right now. But boy,
it's so silly. I keep seeing that all the time on Twitter. It's not all the time, but it's probably one of every 50 tweets is I would watch NWA, but Jim Cornette's on the show, and I'm like, you're a baby.
Yeah, I guess you're right. I have a love-hate relationship with Cornette. With nothing where he knows about it. Trust me. But
I don't know. For me, it's okay. I know that Hogan said some foul shit, some stuff that I could never deal with, and if I heard friends say it, I would be like, what the hell did you just say? But at the same time, I can separate the man from the work. I will never not be an enormous Hulkamaniac. Does that mean that I love Terry Bollea? I don't know. From all accounts that I've heard, for the most part, I've heard he's a shithead. A couple people said he's cool, but for the most part, I've heard that he can be a conniving, cunning SOB. So I don't know. But as far as Hulkamania and the Hulkster, I am on board. And it's kind of the same thing with Cornette. Cornette is one of the greatest promos of all time, if you ask me. He comes up with stuff on the fly, and he's so quick. And the commentary that he's doing, and I even got to give credit to Joe Galli, because Galli is bumping off him so perfect. And it's the best commentary going today. I don't care what anybody says. Now, I will say the audio quality, because I feel like they need to be brought up a little bit more, because sometimes you hear either the ring or the crowd is almost louder than the commentators, which I mean, it's not a bad thing. If the crowd's being loud, that's awesome. But at the same time, you do want to be able to hear what the commentators are saying, from the people at home. So it's kind of a give and take, because you also want to hear the excitement of the crowd. Because that, for me, as a kid, when I was watching, when the crowd was excited on the screen, I was excited sitting at home, and I wanted to be in the crowd. And that's also how you sell tickets. If you got a dead crowd, or a crowd who's only, reacting to really ridiculously extreme moves every now and then, and it's not really that hot of a crowd, it's kind of like, oh, well, I don't want to be there. I might as well just sit at home. But anyway, I think Cornette is hands down the best commentary going today. And so whether you like him outside or you don't, I have the ability to separate unless he's murdered somebody or really done something wrong, but the fact that he said the wrong word for somebody who, look, I don't know what Sonny Kiss's thing is, but it looks like a dude who's dressing like a girl. There's nothing wrong with that. I'm just saying that's what it looks like. I don't know if that's accurate or not. I would even say that some people would probably look at him and think that it might be a chick. Nothing wrong with that. But whatever outdated term that Cornette used, I assure you he meant no offense in that sense. What he was doing was saying, here's a bunch of goofs in this match who either don't look like they belong here, or if they do belong here, tell me why. Tell me some backstory. Tell me who they are. What do they do? Where are they from? And there wasn't a lot of that happening. So I get that. But I feel like for people to jump on that is so childish. Because I think you have to look at intent. And I don't think that there was a homophobic intent. I can damn near assure you there wasn't. Because he puts over Nyla Rose like a son of like crazy.
So I don't know. And I because of that, I'm not going to argue yes or no, or even play devil's advocate. Because Jim Cornette, for me, is a guy I want to love. I grew up on, and some of his views and some of his past tweets are a little bit outdated at best. But you spiraled into something that I think we should at least touch on, which we've not got to any of the things we want to talk about, but this is great, is you talk about separating the wrestler from his personal life and tweets. I can kind of do that at times. I want to figure out a way to do it. And it's tough because you mentioned murdering someone, and of course we have to go to Chris Benoit on that one.
And I was just going to bring that up because I was just going to say, like, I mean, in a sense, awful human being. At the same time, you could probably also chalk that up to brain damage, because the doctor who examined his brain said they'd never seen a brain that like they said it looked like an 80-year-old dementia patient. But regardless of whatever the motivation, whatever the reason, doesn't matter. He still killed his family and himself. Awful human being, it sounds like. But at the same time, I can still look at his work and say, God damn, that guy was good. Like, everything he did was so intense and big and had such a snap behind it. So I can watch that and still appreciate it, even knowing that obviously on some level was a huge piece of shit.
I kind of agree with you, and here's why. I want to go back and appreciate the work of a guy I grew up watching and enjoying. And you're 100% right. The ends doesn't justify the means. I get that his brain and what he did was horrible, but at some point, and I'm trying to think of a good way to put this, and there's not a good way to put this. But
all right, let's say you knew a serial killer, and he loved dogs, though. So he brought you a bunch of rescued dogs that he found off the street. Are you going to turn those dogs away just because a serial killer brought them to you?
Oh, I mean, are they serial killing dogs?
Hey, you never know.
You never know.
What did he teach him?
You don't know. But back to Benoit, I'm not going to go spend any money on anything that he ever had for merch. Not that it matters at this point.
Well, I get that. Yeah, what are you going to wear that out?
Right. I'm not going to buy a DVD, but I'm paying for the network. He's on pay-per-views I've enjoyed growing up in matches that I absolutely love. So am I going to fast forward through it because he did this horrible thing? Or can I say enough time has passed where I don't like him as a person, but inside this realm of fantasy, I can still appreciate him?
For sure. I have sought out his matches on YouTube recently enough to where, like, it's still like, okay, at that time when I'm watching that, I'm not thinking of the person, Chris Benoit. I'm thinking of the wrestler, Chris Benoit, what he does, how he moves, how he does it in the ring. I'm not there thinking about, oh, this guy murdered it. Now, maybe when I'm done, I might be thinking like, holy shit, I can't believe what that guy did. But in the moment, it's like I can appreciate the work and still recognize that, man, the guy was a hell of a talent.
Absolutely. 100%. It's unfortunate. That's all you can say. He should never be in the WWE Hall of Fame. I don't even know if he was a Hall of Famer if he didn't do this.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. I would almost say in a strange way you'd have to make him a Hall of Famer because I feel like he and Eddie Guerrero actually kind of ushered in the smaller era. I mean, both those guys were jacked to the gills, probably on lots of chemical substances. But at the same time, those guys were all under 6 foot. You never had a champion under 6 foot up to that point in time. And now you look across the landscape, and, there's a lot of resistance after that. But you look across the landscape, and I think half of NXT is essentially 205 Live.
Yeah, and speaking of NXT, I want to switch gears for a second since we're running out of time and we still have a Blue Chew ad to do. I have to say, I don't know if this was planned or this was part of the Saudi Arabia travel nightmare scenario, but we kind of got an NXT invasion angle, which looks like it's rolling into Survivor Series. And I have to tell you, as a purist, I'm absolutely thrilled if they would bring back the traditional Survivor Series format. I'm absolutely thrilled if they could pull off or at least keep up this NXT invasion angle a little longer and make it good because I'm a mark for both those. I love a good Survivor Series. They've gotten so far away from the traditional Survivor Series and it's got to evolve. I get it, but I think enough time has passed that you can go back and do it right. And I think the situation with Raw, SmackDown, and NXT is perfect for a traditional Survivor Series.
I like the Survivor Series. I just hate how they've done it when they do bring it back on occasion, because when they do, they always do Raw versus SmackDown. And then it's like there's not really much of a story there because there's not really any real long-standing rival between anybody because everybody's from shows where they're not really intermingling. And aside from that, they have everybody wear the stupid-looking T-shirts. So one team's got to wear all the blue T-shirts. The other one's got to wear why can't they just be on a team? They don't have to wear the damn T-shirts. If they want to get red gear or blue gear, fine, let them do it. But let them be them, do the thing, and maybe have guys who are actually working feuds somehow be teamed up. They used to have the Heenan family versus the Hulkamaniacs or whatever. And it was guys who might have potentially been feuding at some point. Maybe not all of them were, but at least some of them were. But if you're doing Raw versus SmackDown, does that really lead to anything, or does that resolve anything that was already there? Because it seems like, I don't know. I mean, I guess for a couple weeks leading up, they can be like, oh my God, this guy from Raw came on to SmackDown, which isn't that revolutionary because everybody knows it's under the same umbrella. It's not as mind-blowing as a guy from WWF popping up on WCW or vice versa.
Yeah, I can see that.
Like, just have a regular-ass Survivor Series match where it's, this guy's got his sorry, I keep saying it. This guy's got his buddies with him. This guy's got his guys with him. And boom, you got a Survivor Series match.
I want to see him go back to that. I'm also a traditionalist where, you know what, the one thing about, I guess I wouldn't say traditionalist, but the one thing about the Crown Jewel pay-per-view, and if it was held anywhere else, I would geek out. And I don't know if we talked about this last week, was I like a good afternoon show, whether it's on a Friday or, yeah, okay. So, you know, just like an old World Series. And if they could do a pay-per-view held in the afternoon to make it feel special, or even on Thanksgiving, go back to having a Thanksgiving pay-per-view. I absolutely think the WWE Survivor Series could contend with NFL football on Thanksgiving nights.
You think so?
I think it
because
could.
I feel like that would make their pay-per-view buys suffer.
Well, I mean, it's a network at this point. You have the network.
Yeah,
already.
yeah. Well, I'm sorry, their viewership.
I see. I don't think it would. I think enough people with 2 NFL games already on in the afternoon would totally switch over to watch Survivor Series, especially the first couple of years, to bring back that tradition. I think people would be all in.
Well, I mean, didn't they used to do WrestleMania in the afternoon? Like, I thought that started at like 3 or 4 or something.
I think
way back in the day.
I think at times they have. You know, you go back to the one in Las Vegas where it's always daytime there anyways.
Well, yeah, but that was just because it probably started so damn early. But I feel like WrestleMania 3 or something like that, or like WrestleMania 4 might have started at like 4 p.m. on like a Saturday or whatever day it was.
Yeah, maybe you're right.
I feel like I saw that recently. I don't know. But real quick before we go on to the Blue Chew Ad or whatever else, I got to get back to the NWA thing real quick. I think that the reason that it's getting so much love is just because it's truly different. It looks different. It feels different. It sounds different. The wrestling is different because, as Edge had pointed out, guys are taking time to tell stories, and it's very character driven, and there's not a lot of, flippity BS. When we need to bring that in, we will, because all the guys can do that stuff. But at the same time, you don't need that every damn match, especially if you have good characters to build on. And I feel like the crazy thing about NWA so far is every person from top to bottom can work a microphone. And that's so huge, so important, and it means that you have to do less in the ring. Because when people care about your personality and they care about who you are, they're going to care about what you're doing. So you don't have to work so hard at killing yourself and jumping onto a concrete floor from the top turnbuckle just to get a reaction from the people. You can just look at them or hit somebody with something and they'll lose their minds. But yeah, I mean, it's, The Rock and Edge, and I can't remember how many other people have mentioned it, whether it's wrestling or outside of wrestling. Hell, Shuli Agar from the Howard Stern Show just 2 weeks ago was tweeting out that he loved NWA and particularly myself. Yeah.
Nice.
So it's getting a lot of eyes and ears. I mean, obviously, we're not going to compete. We're not looking to compete. We're just looking to exist in our own space, innovate in our own space, and that's exactly what we're doing. Because again, we're different than anything happening out there.
How far, and this will be the last thing I ask, but how deep into the NWA run as a wrestler and as a fan do you think it's going to take before the NWA slowly changes or feels like it has to change and then maybe something a little edgier or start inviting a little bit more of these moves that they've not had in yet to make them feel special, or to just try to even compete with whatever's in that realm of wrestling?
What do you, edgier how? Storylines and whatnot?
Storylines, or maybe start doing the dives and the flippy stuff and all that junk.
No. But that's why we're not doing it, because we want to be different. So like that kind of stuff, that's the whole psychology of what I was talking about before, is like you got to leave yourself somewhere to go. Like, stuff's getting so crazy now, and the audiences are so numb to everything that you have to do such crazy, stupid moves to get a holy shit or a big reaction, whatever, where like, 20 years ago, if you did a dive, you'd have probably gotten a holy shit. But it's the idea that, again, if you have good characters that people care about, you don't have to do as much. So you can do good, snappy, cool stuff that looks great, that people are invested because they're invested in you, and then they get invested in the moves as well. But then you build to, let's say, now you're finally in the main event, so you're going to have a longer match. So now you have maybe some more false finishes. Now you have maybe, a more amped up style or whatever it is. You get to the pay-per-view, now's where you really bring your stuff, because that's the big blow-off. Like, it doesn't – if I'm getting pay-per-view quality matches for free on TV or YouTube every week, why am I going to buy the pay-per-view? There's got to be a build to the pay-per-view. So I've got to be seeing something different on the pay-per-view that I'm not seeing on TV every week.
Oh, okay. Yeah, yes. Are you going to be at the pay-per-view?
Hell yeah, I'm going to be there.
Are you wrestling? Or are you just going to come up and set up matches?
Maybe I'll do a little bit of all that. I'm a jack of all trades, baby.
But, you're essentially like the commissioner.
What? Commissioner Eli Drake.
Yeah,
you know what? I'll do that. That's less bumps.
Well, obviously.
But I in all honesty, though, I hope we keep the whole commissioner, general manager thing off TV. God, that would be awful if we start doing that, because then we're doing it just like everybody else, and that thing's been so played out for the last 20 years. It was good 20 years ago, and it wasn't good since the last 15 years.
Now, look, we all know it's Billy that runs a show, and all you need is a letter from him every once in a while saying, from the desk of Commissioner Billy Corrigan, we've decided that I don't need to see him come out and set matches up.
Or even if he does come out, it's got to be very much a Jack Tunney role, where it's come out, do your thing, you're only seen maybe once or twice a year, and that's it. Make it special.
And every time he comes out, he sees a shadow, and it's like 4 more weeks of tapings.
There you go.
But, let's roll into the Blue Chew ad. We're an hour 5 minutes in, and I got to tell you, unlike the commissioner, I like to come out more than once or twice a year. And
boy.
Yes, that's called transition, Eli. Good transition. Anyways, head over to BlueChew.com. Use the promo code Perspective. With that promo code, Eli himself, he may even put on a mailman's cap and a hat, but he will deliver your first order of Blue Chew for free. You just pay the $5 shipping and handling. And look, Eli, we say this every week. Think of the $5 people spend on stupid merch that they don't even need or want anymore.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. A lot of it. So much of it.
Pins and hats and,
But not the Eli Drake pin. Go get yours. That thing's good.
Do you have an Eli Drake pin?
There's a new Eli Drake pin. It was just released.
Really?
Yeah. Get that and your Blue Chew.
Yeah, put it on. First of all, if you have anything that says Eli Drake on, that's almost as good as Blue Chew. I mean, that's already, she's all in. She's like,
that's like Blue Chew for her.
Right.
Yeah. So you take the Blue Chew for you. Eli Drake pin works like Blue Chew for her. You're set for the night.
Yeah. So go to Blue Chew. Use the promo code Perspective. It's made with the same active ingredients as Viagra and Cialis, so you know it works. It's chewable, so it works twice as fast. Made in America, so it's cheaper. And listen, guys or girls, look, if you're a girl and your husband doesn't get it done and you're listening to this and you're like, you know what? Christmas,
give me a call.
Yeah.
Oh, wait. I'm sorry. Go on.
Yeah,
Inner monologue.
Yeah, don't give Eli a call, because first of all, he doesn't need Blue Chew, and you won't go back to your husband or boyfriend if he needs Blue Chew. So don't call Eli. Eli's Blue Chew blocking us now. We don't need that. But either way, call Eli to deliver the Blue Chew for your husband to use around the Christmas times, because, we want to see those balls jingling around the tree.
Jingle balls.
Wow. There we go. So BlueChew.com, promo code Perspective, and even better than anything else, it's what keeps the show on the air. So go order it. Tell us you did it, or don't tell us. We won't do it publicly. But either way, we enjoy that you guys are going out and doing it. They signed on for 2020, so we're definitely back again this year. So this coming year. So we got everything. Eli, I'm rambling. Let's promote. What do you got coming up?
Well, December 14th, of course, we have the NWA Into the Fire pay-per-view coming at ya from the GBP studios in Atlanta. We are sold out, but you can catch it on pay-per-view. I will then, of course, also be at that same set of tapings for the next 2 nights in Atlanta. I believe there might still be limited seats available for at least one of those 2 nights, if not both. I'm not sure. So if you're in the Atlanta area, if you're going to the Atlanta area, if you're going to be in the Atlanta area, you can get to the Atlanta area. Get to the Atlanta area December 14th, 15th, 16th, and see the NWA and yours truly, Eli Drake. And, of course, go to ProWrestlingTees.com/Eli Drake to get your beautiful, wonderful Eli Drake T-shirts. And go to the NWA and check out their shop because now there's a new Eli Drake pin out there you can get. And I think there might soon be an Eli Drake T-shirt that we're working on. Haven't quite agreed on something. Still trying to figure out what designs I like, what I want. Kind of penning something together. But keep your eye on that. Keep checking the NWA shop website for that. And find me on Twitter and Instagram at the Eli Drake.
All right, head over to WrestlingPerspectivePodcast.com. There you can find links to all of the podcasts, anywhere you get them. If you don't want to go to the website, anywhere you get your podcasts, that's where you get Wrestling Perspective. Go tell your friend. That's the best way to we grow is by word of mouth. So make sure you get out there and word of mouth us up. If you're on iTunes, rate, subscribe, leave a comment. That's what helps us move up the rankings with those algorithms. And, more than anything, you can follow me on Twitter at Dennis77Farrell, Farrell. Eli, do you know what that second L stands for?
Larry.
Love.
Oh.
But it's close. I do sometimes. No, the first L is Larry. The second L is love.
Oh, look at that. Larry Love, yeah.
Yeah, so, it's an homage. Anyways. Eli,
by the way, I'm a giant jerk where you can also find me every Tuesday, 6:05 p.m. Eastern Time, NWA Power on YouTube at youtube.com/NWA.
I would love one day to sit there and watch you come out for a match. First of all, I'd love to see you come out for a match in a couple episodes, maybe, if they'll let you.
Come on.
I had to do that, right?
2 of 4 episodes I've wrestled so far. I'm sorry, is it 5 episodes? 2 of 5.
Yeah, well,
Look, I got hired from my mouth. My words out of my mouth.
We're going to isolate that one.
Oh, boy.
Anyways, just come out one day and be like, I love Dennis. And then go to the ring. That's never going to happen, is it? No.
I mean.
No.
How much money's in it for me?
I've got a couple shekels. Or is that still a form of monetary money? No.
I don't know how to spend shekels.
Well, see, there we go. I've got 1,000 shekels.
I don't know how to spend those, so you can keep them.
Or how about 2.5 million rubies? Rubles.
Oh, no. Rubies was good.
Rubles.
No.
How about 6 million pesos?
All right, you're going too far now. Let's just say goodbye to everybody and get the hell out of here.
All right, bye, everybody. Eli, say
bye.